Hi, everyone. I'm going to try a new format for my announcements, which are really more these recapturing and responses to everything you guys have contributed. So I want to start with saying thank you so much for all your open mindedness and all your amazing contributions. I'm just enjoying so much all the things you guys are sharing and the diversity of backgrounds and thoughts. That makes our world interesting. So I've seen some really cool posts and really cool assessments of what you guys have been doing. Definitely love the idea that, you guys have all been taking these quizzes. They are certainly just for fun. The best way to evaluate some of these things is certainly working with a practitioner. But I love that you guys have been open-minded and really thought about them. There's certainly some crossover that I find, even with working with practitioners in the field of, chakra evaluation and dosha types. So we really kind of dive deep into some of these systems that are these bigger picture umbrellas of looking at health and wellness and how to thrive. So a lot of you found that the Ayurvedic traditions and Chinese medicine and even Reiki for that matter, the Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic traditions, they've been around for thousands of years. And they have come from the observation of the environment that we live in. And these beliefs and observations don't have us separate from that environment. I don't believe we're separate from the environment. We are Earth. We are part of Earth. We are beings on Earth. The trees and the air and the water and the fire and the ground, they're not separate from us. We are intertwined because we are intermingled. The trees breathe in carbon dioxide and out oxygen, and they look like lungs, right? I mean, that's not a coincidence. So these traditions have observed how the natural world is intertwined with our physical bodies and made recommendations and observations based on these things. So one of the things I want to encourage everyone to think about is, in our Western world, we're very, the scientific model, because I want to really separate out this idea that science is really this general term for this natural living world. The scientific method is what we apply to research to determine outcomes and hypotheses and things that are trying to be assessed and categorized. So the issue to keep in mind with the scientific method is that it is only as good as the users. And so when we look at the world we're in the Western world, when we're applying a scientific method, the people who are applying the scientific method have oftentimes financial investment into the outcomes. There might be ways that we're assessing things like pills, right? So when we do a randomized control trial, we're saying this pill is the actual medicine, this pill is a placebo. We give each one to different groups without them knowing. It's a double-blind randomized control, and it means the people giving the pills to the people don't know either. It's great. It's a beautiful way to assess if these things work. It's a fantastic tool. The problem is when people who come in who have a stake in the outcomes and they financially are invested in the outcomes, that can muddy the waters. We live in a society that is unfortunately very influenced by profits in healthcare, and that's just not a good blend. The other thing is, how do you take something like Ayurveda and do a double-blind study? You can't. And so, there might be certain tools that Ayurveda uses that you could do that with. But as a whole, it doesn't fit that mold. So we really need to understand, how do we assess and evaluate the things in the appropriate way that represent what they are about. And so, the other thing I encourage you to think about is this idea of, the Western world has this idea that, this scientific method is, the gold standard, and that should be for certain things. But how healthy are we, right? How's this working for us? The United States is not that healthy, and you'll see this as you get closer to your assignment at the end of the semester. So, these systems like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, these things are showing for thousands of years that the health outcomes and wellness is far greater than, a lot of the outcomes of what we're seeing in certain areas in the United States because of this whole system, environment-based wellness model. So are you moving appropriately for your body? How are you eating? When are you eating? How are you supporting your system in the different seasons for what your particular type needs? So these things are much greater than, our 15-minute, if we're lucky, visits with our doctors who are just handing us a prescription, right? So really, this problem is that we have this profit-based system, and if we could open this up to allow more time with people and intervene more with long-term wellness and prevention approaches, I think we'd have a much different outcome of health in this country. So thank you all again for all your contributions. Most of the grading is up to date. If you have any questions, let me know.